The small research ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Doctor stood at the window, his three eyes watching the stars with worry in his heart. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations, checking numbers and reading screens. They were far from home, farther than they should be. "We should not be here," said from her seat. She was the ship's navigator and her voice showed her fear. "The council banned this area. If they find us, we will lose everything." Turned to look at her. His thin body moved with the grace of someone born on a world with light gravity. "The council is afraid of old things," he said. "But old things can teach us new knowledge. We are scientists. This is what we do." Thorne, the security officer, made a sound that meant he agreed. He was bigger than the others but still small by the standards of most species. His people were peaceful traders who hired themselves out as guards. "The doctor is right. Besides, we are already here. We might as well look around." The young researcher, Pix, suddenly made an excited noise. Her fingers moved quickly over her control panel. "Doctor, I am finding something. There is a structure ahead. It is not natural." Everyone turned to look at the main screen. There, floating in the empty space, was something impossible. A structure hung in the void, perfect and geometric. It was made of material that their sensors could not identify. Symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with light that had no source. "How old is it?" asked, moving closer to the screen. Pix worked her controls, trying to get answers. "I cannot tell. My equipment says it is older than our civilization, maybe thousands of years, maybe more." Stood up from her seat. "We should report this and leave. Let the council send a proper team." But shook his head. "If we report this, the council will take the credit. They will take our discovery. We need to scan it first. Just one deep scan. Then we can prove we found it." The crew looked at each other. They all knew was right. They were a small team from a small university. This discovery could make their careers. It could make them famous. It could bring funding and respect. "Do it," Thorne said. "One scan, then we leave." Nodded to Pix. The young researcher's hands shook a little as she prepared the deep penetration scanner. This type of scanner could look inside objects and read their structure. It was powerful but also dangerous if used on unknown technology. "Scanning now," Pix said. A beam of energy shot from their ship toward the ancient structure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the structure began to glow. The symbols on its surface lit up bright, brighter than before. They pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. "Something is happening," said, her voice rising with panic. "The structure is responding to our scan." "Pull back the scanner," ordered. But it was too late. The structure released a pulse of energy that spread out in all directions. It was not like normal energy. It moved through a different kind of space, a deeper space. This instrument screamed with warnings as the pulse washed over their ship and continued outward into the universe. Far away on a planet called Earth, alarms began to ring. Admiral Menu was in his office at the Sol Command Center when the alert came through. He was reading reports, drinking coffee, and thinking about his daughter's birthday next week. The sudden alarm made him spill coffee on his desk. "What is that?" he demanded, standing up quickly. His assistant ran into the room, her face pale. "Sir, we have a signal. It is one of the old beacons from the colony program." Menu felt his blood go cold. 200 years ago, Earth had sent out 3 colony ships. They were humanity's first attempt to reach other stars. All 3 ships had vanished without a trace. The program was shut down. The beacons were supposed to be silent forever. "Which one?" he asked. "Beacon Delta 7, the New Dawn." Menu moved quickly to the main command room. Officers turned to look at him as he entered. On the big screen in the center of the room, a map showed the beacon's location. It was far away, in a part of space humans had never explored. "What is the message?" Menu asked. A young officer named read from his screen. "It is the standard emergency signal, sir. Under attack. Request immediate assistance. All units respond. The room went quiet. Everyone knew the rule. It was written into every ship's computer, taught to every cadet, and burned into every officer's mind. No distress call goes unanswered. It did not matter if the call was old. It did not matter if it was dangerous. If someone called for help, you went. Sound the alarm, Minu said. Mobilize the Third Fleet. Across the solar system, ships began to wake up. Captain was on shore leave, visiting her parents when her communicator buzzed. She read the message and her eyes went wide. Within an hour, she was on a shuttle heading for her ship, the massive Indomitable. Commander got the alert while he was sleeping. He was dressed and out the door in 5 minutes. His flagship, the dreadnought Thunderbolt, was ready to move. In orbit around Mars, around the Moon, in the asteroid belt, and in the outer system, 47 warships began to power up their jump drives. These were not small ships. Each one was built to survive anything space could throw at it. They had thick armor, powerful shields, and enough weapons to destroy a small moon. The humans had learned to build strong ships because space was dangerous. They had learned to work together because Earth had almost destroyed them before they reached the stars. And they had learned that family was everything, that you protected your own, that you never left anyone behind. 200 years was a long time. Everyone knew the colonists were probably dead, but they had called for help, and help was coming. The fleet began to jump. One by one, the massive human warships tore open holes in space and vanished, heading for the Forbidden Quadrant at faster-than-light speed. In the research ship, Doctor and his crew celebrated. They thought the pulse was just a reaction, something natural. They had no idea what they had done. They had no idea that they had just woken up and they had no idea that they were coming with everything they had. The accident had happened. Now everything would change. Doctor was making notes about the strange structure when Pix screamed. It was not a quiet sound. It was the kind of scream that made everyone jump and reach for emergency equipment. "What is wrong?" demanded, rushing to her station. Pix pointed at her screen with a shaking hand. "Space is breaking, right here, right around us." The main display showed what she meant. Space itself was tearing open in 47 different places. These were not normal jump points. They were huge. Whatever was coming through was big. "Get us out of here," Thorne ordered, moving to the weapons console. Not that their small research ship had much in the way of weapons. A mining laser and some emergency flares were all they carried. Tried to start the engines, but her hands were shaking too much. "The interference is too strong. We cannot jump away. We have to wait." They watched in horror as the first ship came through. It was enormous. The research vessel could fit inside it 100 times over. The ship was dark gray, covered in armor plates that looked thick enough to stop anything. Weapons bristled from every surface. Lights glowed red along its hull. Then another ship appeared, and another, and another. "Count them," whispered. Pix's voice was tiny with fear. 47 ships. All of them are bigger than anything in the Council fleet. Doctor, what have we done?" The ships moved into formation around the vessel. It reminded of how predators surrounded prey back on his. They were not attacking yet, but they were ready. They were waiting. On board the Indomitable, Admiral Minu stood on the bridge with his hands behind his back. He looked calm, but inside he was processing everything his sensors told him. There was one small ship here, just one, and it did not look like any design in Earth's database. "That is not human," Captain said, standing beside him. "That is an alien ship." Worked his console, running every scan the Indomitable had. "Confirmed, sir. Unknown design, unknown materials. The technology is different from ours, more organic in structure, less efficient in some ways but elegant." Minu felt his heartbeat quicken. First contact. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries. They had searched the stars and found nothing. They had listened to the silence and wondered if they were alone. Now here was proof. They were not alone. But this was not how it was supposed to happen. They came here because of a distress call, because someone had attacked their colony ship, and this alien vessel was sitting right where the beacon was located. Hail them, Minu ordered. Standard first contact protocols. Let them know we are here to respond to a distress call. Lieutenant, the communications officer, worked her station. She was young but good at her job. She sent out the message in every frequency and format Earth had developed for this moment. This is the Terran Federation Navy responding to distress beacon Delta 7. Identify yourself and the nature of your emergency. Inside the ship, the translator struggled with the incoming message. The sounds were harsh and sharp. The language used concepts that did not translate well, but Pix managed to get a basic understanding. They are asking who we are, she said. They mentioned something about a distress call. Felt his stomach drop. The beacon. They must have triggered some kind of distress beacon when they scanned the structure. Tell them it was an accident. Tell them we mean no harm. We are scientists. Pix tried to compose a message, but the translator was still struggling. What she thought she was saying and what actually got transmitted were two different things. The message that reached the human fleet was garbled and strange. To human ears, it sounded like, "We activated your beacon intentionally to lure you into an ambush." On the indomitable bridge, silence fell. Every officer turned to look at Admiral Minu. Captain's hand moved to her weapon console, checked his readings again, looking for more ships, looking for the trap. "Sir?" asked quietly. Minu's face became hard. Someone had called for help from the New Dawn, and these aliens were claiming they did it as a trap. 200 years later, these aliens were using human distress signals as weapons. He felt anger rise in his chest. "Battle stations," he ordered. "Spread formation. Find their main fleet. These aliens are not stupid enough to ambush us with just one small research ship. There are more of them somewhere." Alarms rang throughout the human fleet. 47 warships powered up their weapons. Gun ports opened. Missile tubes loaded. Energy shields came online with a hum that vibrated through every deck. Fighter craft launched from carrier bays, thousands of small ships moving into defensive patterns. The crew watched their sensors light up with warnings. The energy readings coming from the human ships were impossible. A single one of those vessels could destroy their entire home fleet, and there were 47 of them. "We are going to die," said. She was crying now. "We are all going to die because we were greedy and stupid." Refused to give up, he grabbed the communication controls himself. "Let me try, let me explain." He spoke slowly into the transmitter, trying to make himself clear. "We mean no harm. We are scientists. We did not know about your beacon." But again, the translation failed. What the humans heard was, "We have harmed your colony. We are the ones responsible for what happened to your people." Looked at Admiral Minu with wide eyes. "Sir, they just confessed. They are admitting they attacked the New Dawn." Minu's jaw clenched. The colony ship had carried 20,000 people, families, children, scientists and farmers and teachers and dreamers. They had gone to the stars with hope in their hearts, and these aliens had killed them. And now, 200 years later, they thought they could use that tragedy as bait. "Prepare to fire," Minu said. His voice was cold. "Lock weapons on their ship." Hesitated. "Sir, there is something wrong here. Look at their ship. It has almost no weapons. It is not built for combat. It is a science vessel." "Then why did they confess?" Minu demanded. "I do not know, sir, but something is not right." Minu stared at the alien ship on his screen. Was correct. It did not look like a warship. It looked fragile and delicate, but the message had been clear. Or had it? He said, "Run a full diagnostic on the translation matrix. I want to know if we are hearing them correctly." "Yes, sir." Inside the ship made a decision. "Broadcast our research credentials on all frequencies. Show them we are part of a university. Show them we are scientists, not soldiers." Did as he asked. Data began streaming from their ship. Academic records, research papers, university identification codes. Everything that proved they were exactly what they claimed to be. On the Indomitable started receiving the new data. He pulled it up on his screen and began reading. His expression changed from anger to confusion. "Admiral," he said slowly, "you need to see this. These aliens are sending their academic records. They are from something called the University of. They study ancient artifacts. Their mission profile says they are here to scan historical objects." Minyu moved to look over his shoulder. He read quickly. The more he read, the more his anger turned to doubt. These records looked real. They looked detailed and boring in the way that real academic work was always detailed and boring. "Could this be a trick?" asked. "It could be," Minyu admitted. "But why? If this is a trap, where is the rest of their fleet? We have been here for 10 minutes. If they were going to spring an ambush, they would have done it already." Turned from her station. "Sir, I found the problem. Our translation software is getting errors. Their language uses multiple tones that carry meaning. We are only picking up one tone. The message we are receiving is not the message they are sending." Minyu closed his eyes and took a deep breath. What are they actually saying? Worked for a moment. They are saying it was an accident. They are begging us not to hurt them. They are saying they are sorry for activating our beacon. The bridge went very quiet. 47 warships hung in space, weapons charged and ready to fire, all because of a translation error. All because humans and aliens used language in different ways. "Stand down weapons," Minyu ordered. "Prepare a boarding team. We are going to that ship. We are going to sort this out face to face." Commander checked his armor one more time. He led the boarding team, 12 soldiers trained for first contact situations. They were ready for anything. Combat, rescue, diplomacy, whatever the situation required. "Remember," he told his team, "these might be hostile, they might be victims. We do not know yet. Stay alert but do not fire unless I give the order." The soldiers nodded. They loaded into the transport shuttle and launched from the Indomitable. The small craft crossed the distance between the two ships in seconds. As they got closer, could see how different the alien vessel looked. It was smooth and curved, like something grown instead of built. Inside the ship, the crew huddled together in their small laboratory. They had sealed all the doors they could. They had sent messages explaining they were peaceful. Nothing seemed to work. Now the massive aliens were coming aboard. "Maybe we can hide," Pix suggested. She was the youngest and the most frightened. Thorn shook his head. "They have scanners. They can find us anywhere on this ship. We have to face them and hope they are merciful." The sound of cutting came from the airlock. The humans were not waiting for permission to dock. They were cutting their way through, watched on a security screen as the airlock door fell inward. Then the humans stepped through. They were huge. That was first thought. They were wearing armor that made them look even bigger. Each one carried weapons that looked powerful enough to blast through walls. Their helmets hid their faces, making them look like machines instead of living beings. Scanned the ship with his helmet sensors. He located the crew quickly. 4 life signs all gathered in one room, all showing signs of extreme stress, heart rates elevated, breathing rapid. They were terrified. "Team with me," he ordered. "Weapons down but ready." They moved through the ship carefully. Everything was built small, designed for beings much lighter than humans, had to duck through doorways. He heard his soldiers complaining about the low ceilings over the communication channel. They reached the laboratory. The door was sealed. Could have cut through it, but that seemed aggressive. Instead, he knocked. It felt silly, knocking on an alien door with his armored fist, but his mother had taught him manners. Inside, the crew heard the knock and stared at each other in confusion. The massive armored aliens who had cut through their airlock were now knocking politely. "What do we do?" whispered. Stood up, his legs felt weak, but he forced himself to move. We opened the door. We faced this with dignity. He touched the door control. The door slid open, for a moment, and just looked at each other. The human was so much bigger. There was so much smaller. They were completely different species from completely different worlds. Slowly reached up and removed his helmet. He wanted them to see his face. He wanted them to see that he was alive, that he was thinking and feeling, that he was not just a machine. Saw a face that was strange but somehow familiar. 2 eyes, not 3, darker skin, hair on the head but not on the face. The alien's expression was hard to read at first, but then saw something he recognized. Concern. The human looked concerned. "We are here to help," said slowly. His translator was working better now, especially with visual contact. "Can you understand me?" "Yes," said. His voice was shaking. "We can understand you. Please, there has been a mistake. We did not mean to call you. We did not mean to hurt anyone. We are scientists." Looked around the laboratory. He saw equipment for analyzing samples. He saw computers displaying research data. He saw books and notes and all the chaos of academic work. This was not a military vessel. This was exactly what they claimed it was. "Tell me what happened," said, "from the beginning." Told him everything. The decision to explore the Forbidden Quadrant, the discovery of the ancient structure, the scan that activated the beacon, the confusion when the human fleet arrived, the translation errors that made everything worse. As Talked's expression changed, he looked at his soldiers. They looked back at him. They all understood what had happened. This was not an attack. This was just bad luck and miscommunication. "Wait here," said. He stepped away and opened his communication channel to Admiral Menu. "Sir, we have a situation. These are not hostiles. They are scientists who accidentally triggered our beacon. And sir, from what they are telling me, there is something bigger going on here." "Explain," Menu's voice came through. "Sir, they say they are part of something called the Galactic Council. They say that the Council has been watching Earth for years. They knew about us and decided not to make contact. They put our entire solar system under some kind of quarantine." There was a long silence. Then Menu said, "Are they telling the truth?" Looked at the crew. They looked small and scared and honest. "I believe them, sir." "Bring them to the Indomitable. I want to talk to them myself." While this was happening, far away on a massive space station, Council member was having a very bad day. Reports were flooding in from every corner of the galaxy. An unknown fleet had appeared in the Forbidden Quadrant, a fleet that was bigger and more powerful than anything the Council had ever seen. His assistant brought him the latest analysis. "The readings are confirmed, sir. These ships are real, and they are all from the same planet." "Which planet?" demanded. Pulled up a star chart. "System designation Sol 3. We have a monitoring outpost watching it. The species there is classified as developing. They are not supposed to have space travel yet." Felt his blood chill. "Show me the classification." Brought up the file. There it was, Planet Earth. Classification Class 12, status, quarantined. Estimated time to space travel, 100 years minimum. "They are early," said quietly. "They are 100 years early." "Yes, sir, and sir, you need to see this." Brought up images of the human ships. "Look at the design. Look at the armor thickness. Look at the weapon power. These ships are built to survive in extreme conditions." Studied the images. He had been on the Council for 30 years. He had seen ships from every major species. He had never seen anything like this. These were not exploration vessels. These were warships. But they were warships built with a philosophy that seemed excessive. "Why so much armor?" he wondered aloud. "Why so many redundant systems?" Checked her notes. According to the monitoring reports, Earth is an extremely hostile environment, violent weather, tectonic instability, dangerous predators. The species that evolved there had to become very tough just to survive. It seems they built their ships the same way they built themselves, to withstand anything. General, the military advisor, entered the room. He looked angry and scared at the same time. We need to send a fleet immediately. We need to contain this situation before it gets worse. Held up a hand. No, we send diplomats, we negotiate. Negotiate's voice rose. They appeared in a forbidden zone with a battle fleet. That is an act of aggression. They responded to a distress call, said quietly. Our listening posts picked up the transmission. One of their old colony ships sent a beacon 200 years ago. They are here because they think their people are in trouble. Made a decision. Send a message to the human fleet. Tell them the council requests a meeting. Be polite, be respectful, do not threaten them. Why not? Demanded. Pointed at the images on the screen. Because if we threaten them and they decide to fight, we will lose. Look at these numbers. A single one of their destroyers has more firepower than our dreadnoughts, and they brought 47 ships. We do not have enough military force in this entire sector to stop them. The room went quiet. Everyone was looking at the images now. Everyone was doing the math. Everyone was realizing the same thing. The humans from there were not just strong. They were overwhelmingly strong. What do we do? Asked. Sat down heavily in his chair. We do what the council always does when faced with something new. We adapt. We learn. We survive. And we hope that they are as reasonable as they are dangerous. Doctor had never felt so small in his entire life. The bridge of the Indomitable was enormous. The ceiling was high above his head. The chairs were built for beings twice his size. Everything was hard metal and sharp angles. It felt like being inside a weapon. Admiral Minu sat in the command chair looking down at him. Captain stood to one side. Other human officers filled the room. They were all so big, so tall, so solid, felt like a child among giants. Tell me about the Galactic Council, Minu said. His voice was not angry, but it was firm. This was someone used to being obeyed. Swallowed and began to speak. He told them everything he knew. The council was made up of 43 different species. They had been exploring space for thousands of years. They had rules about which species could join and when. They monitored developing worlds and decided when those worlds were ready for contact. And Earth, Minu asked, when were we going to be ready? The estimate was another 100 years, said quietly, maybe more. Laughed, but it was not a happy sound. They were going to make us wait another century, while they watched us like animals in a zoo. It is not like that, protested. The council has protocols. They exist to protect everyone. First contact can be dangerous if it happens too early. Minu leaned forward. Protect everyone from what? Hesitated, he looked at Thorn, who had come with him. The security officer nodded, took a deep breath. From you, he said finally. From. The bridge went silent. Every human was staring at him now. Felt his survival instincts screaming at him to run, but there was nowhere to go. Explain that, Minu said. His voice was very quiet. Your planet, said, Earth. It is classified as a Class 12, the highest danger rating in our system. Everything about your world should make complex life impossible. The gravity is too high. The weather is too violent. The tectonic activity is too strong. There are too many dangerous predators, too many diseases, too much radiation. Lieutenant, the intelligence officer, spoke up. But we evolved there. We survived. That is what makes you dangerous, said. Species from gentle worlds like mine, we evolved with abundance and safety. We learned to cooperate because we never had to fight to survive. But you had to become strong. You had to become tough. You had to become survivors. And the council is afraid of survivors? Asked. The council is cautious, corrected. There have been other species. Some of them became conquerors. Some became aggressive. Some caused problems. Minu stood up from his chair, had to crane his neck to look up at him. And you assumed we would be the same. The council does not assume, said. The council waits and watches. They were watching to see if you would destroy yourselves before you reach the stars. Many species do. Commander, the strategic operations officer, stepped forward. You said you have been watching us. For how long? About 50 years, admitted. There was an incident. One of our scout ships crashed in your ocean. You found it. You studied it. The council decided to observe and see what you would do with the technology. Made a choking sound. The Pacific incident, 1947. We thought it was a weather balloon. Everyone said we were crazy to think it was aliens. You were not crazy, said. It was one of ours. We crashed due to a navigation error. Your people found the wreckage and reverse-engineered our technology. The council was impressed by how quickly you learned, but also concerned. You went from primitive aircraft to space stations in just a few decades. Minyu walked to the window. He looked out at the stars. So you watched us. You knew we were struggling. You knew we had wars and famines and diseases, and you did nothing. The Prime Directive forbids interference, said. Every species must develop on their own path. That is convenient, said coldly. A rule that lets you feel good about watching people suffer. Flinched, he could not argue with that. The council's rules had always seemed wise when he learned them in university. But now, facing these humans, these people who had survived and built ships that made the council's fleet look weak, the rules seemed cruel. Minyu turned back to face them. Show me what you know about us. Show me your files. Pulled out his data pad. His hands shook as he brought up Earth's file. He projected it onto the main screen. The humans gathered around to read. The file was detailed. It showed Earth's location. It showed the composition of the atmosphere. It listed the gravity at one standard, which was 30% higher than most council worlds. It noted the temperature variations, the violent storms, the earthquakes, the volcanoes. Then it listed the life, the predators, animals that could kill with teeth or claws or venom, creatures that hunted in packs, insects that carried disease, microscopic organisms that could devastate entire populations. And then it listed humans, height, weight, strength, speed, all measured against standard council species. The numbers were shocking. Humans were stronger than 70% of council species. They could survive in a wider range of temperatures. They could eat a wider variety of foods. They healed faster. They adapted quicker. This is wrong, said, reading the medical section. We are not that special. We are just people. To you, you are normal, said. But to us, you are extraordinary. Your bone density alone is remarkable. Your muscle efficiency is incredible. Your immune system fights off diseases that would kill most council species. Pulled up another section. This says we are one of only 5 species that reached space travel. Yes, said. Most species destroy themselves. The competition for resources becomes too intense. They fight wars that end their civilizations. You almost did the same several times. But we did not, Minyu said. We learned. We changed. We decided to work together instead of killing each other. That is also in the file, said. He pulled up another page. The psychological profile. It notes that humans form strong social bonds, that you have concepts like loyalty and honor and sacrifice, that you have a saying, no one gets left behind. Minyu nodded. That is why we came here, because 200 years ago someone sent a distress call. We do not abandon our people. Looked at the Admiral. He was starting to understand something. The humans were dangerous, yes. They were strong and tough and built to survive, but they were also loyal. They were also honorable. They had come to this forbidden space not to conquer but to rescue. What are you going to do now? Asked quietly. Minyu looked at his officers. They looked back at him. A silent conversation happened between them. Finally, Minyu spoke. We are going to tell the council that we are here, that we know they have been watching us, and that we are not going away. They will not like that, warned. I do not care what they like, Minyu said. We are a spacefaring species now. We have the same right to explore as anyone else. If the council wants to talk, we will talk, but we will not be caged. We will not be quarantined. We will not be hidden away like dangerous animals. Smiled, we are going to make quite an entrance. Was already working on his data pad. I am drafting a message now, something that will get their attention. Watched them work. He saw the determination on their faces. He saw the unity in how they moved together, and he understood something the council had not realized. The humans were not just physically tough. They were mentally tough. They had survived there by learning to never give up, and they were not going to start giving up now. This is going to change everything, said to Thorn. The security officer nodded. Yes, and maybe that is not a bad thing. The council has been the same for a long time. Maybe it needs something new, something unexpected. Something dangerous, added. Or something strong, Thorn said. Strong enough to help when others cannot. The doctor is right about one thing. These humans do not abandon people. If the council learns to work with them instead of fear them, we might all benefit. On the main screen finished his message. Minyu read it over and nodded. Send it. Broadcast on all council frequencies. The message went out across the galaxy. Every council station received it. Every council ship heard it. And every species that was part of the council heard the same thing. They had arrived, and they were not asking for permission. The message was simple, but it shook the entire Galactic Council. Admiral Minyu had not written something diplomatic or careful. He had written the truth, plain and direct. This is Admiral Minyu of the Terran Federation Navy. We are here because one of our ships went missing 200 years ago and we received a distress call. We have learned that your council knew of our existence and chose to hide from us. That ends today. We are not asking for permission to join your council. We are informing you that humanity is now a spacefaring species. We will operate in any sector we choose. We will answer any distress call we receive, and we will defend ourselves if threatened. On Unity Prime, the Council's central station, panic spread through the halls. Species from every corner of the galaxy watched the message again and again. They looked at the images of the human fleet. They read the analysis of the human ships, and they felt something many of them had never felt before. They felt small. Council member called an emergency session. Representatives from all 43 member species gathered in the Great Hall. The room was full of different beings. Some were tall, some were short. Some breathed oxygen, some breathed methane. Some walked on legs, some floated in tanks. But they all had one thing in common now. They were all worried. We must respond with force, General insisted. He stood at the military podium, his 4 arms gesturing dramatically. They have violated quarantine protocols. They have entered forbidden space. They have threatened the council's authority. But Counselor stood up from her seat. She represented a peaceful species known for their wisdom. They have done nothing wrong except exist. We placed them under quarantine without their knowledge or consent. They have every right to be angry with us. They are dangerous, argued. The file says they are. History shows us that species are aggressive and violent. History shows us that we are afraid, said quietly. We have been afraid of the unknown for so long that we have forgotten to be curious. These humans came here to save their people. That is not aggression. That is loyalty. Listen to both sides. He was the deciding vote in many cases. The council looked to him for leadership. He thought about the human fleet. He thought about their message. And he thought about what would happen if the council tried to force the humans back into their quarantine. We negotiate, he announced finally. We send diplomats, we talk to them as equals. Equals? Sounded shocked. They have been spacefaring for less than a century. We have thousands of years of experience. And yet their ships are stronger than ours, said bluntly. Experience does not matter if the other side has better technology and more determination. We negotiate, or we risk a war we cannot win. The council voted. It was close, but speech had swayed enough members. They would send diplomats. They would try to find a peaceful solution. 1 week later, a council diplomatic ship arrived in the Forbidden Quadrant. It was a beautiful vessel, designed to impress and inspire. It had artwork on its hull and gardens visible through its windows. It looked like a work of art compared to the brutal efficiency of the human warships. Ambassador stood in the docking bay of the Indomitable, waiting for the council representatives to arrive. She was young for an ambassador, only 35 years old, but she had been chosen for this mission because she understood both sides. She had grown up reading about aliens and dreaming of the stars, and she had spent her career learning how to negotiate between different cultures on Earth. The airlock opened. The council delegation entered, studied them carefully. There were 5 diplomats, each from a different species. She recognized their types from the files Doctor had provided, a like himself, a like counselor, a tall and imposing, a quist, small and quick, and a floating in a tank of liquid. The lead diplomat was a being named Hoss. He was impressive, standing 3 meters tall with 4 arms and skin that changed colors with his emotions. Right now, his skin showed patterns that's database said meant caution and concern. "I am ambassador of the Terran Federation," she said. Her translator converted her words into multiple languages simultaneously. "Welcome aboard the Indomitable." Hoss bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "I am Senior Diplomat Hoss of the Galactic Council. We come to discuss the recent events and find a path forward." They moved to a conference room. The humans had tried to make it comfortable for different species. There were chairs of different sizes, different atmosphere controls, different lighting options. It was not perfect, but it showed effort. The negotiation began. Hoss spoke first, and he did not try to hide the council's position. "Your appearance in the Forbidden Quadrant has caused significant concern. The quarantine protocols exist for good reasons. We cannot have species entering restricted space whenever they choose." Nodded. "I understand your concern, but you must understand ours. You placed us under quarantine without our knowledge. You watched us struggle and grow and fight and learn, and you said nothing. You have no right to be surprised that we are unhappy about that." The diplomat, whose name was, spoke up. "The protocols are not meant as punishment. They are meant as protection. First contact must happen at the right time." "And who decides the right time?" asked. "You. A council we did not even know existed. We have been looking at the stars for centuries, wondering if we were alone. You knew we were not alone. You could have ended that wondering at any time." Hoss's skin showed patterns of discomfort. "There have been problems in the past. Species have caused conflicts. We were being cautious." "You were being prejudiced," said. She kept her voice calm but firm. "You looked at where we came from and decided what we would become. You did not give us a chance to show you who we actually are." The delegation member, a small being named, spoke for the first time. "But what are you? You come with warships. You come with weapons. You broadcast demands. How is this different from the aggressive of the past?" Smiled. "We came with warships because we thought our people were in danger. We came with weapons because we were prepared to fight to save them. We broadcast demands because we are tired of being watched and judged from a distance. But notice what we did not do. We did not attack. We did not invade. We did not conquer. When we realized there was a misunderstanding, we stopped. We talked. We are talking now." Admiral Menu had been sitting quietly at the end of the table. Now he spoke. "Let me make something very clear. Earth does not want to conquer anyone. We do not want to rule anyone. We just want to be free to explore and learn and help when help is needed. If the Council can accept that, then we can work together. If the Council cannot accept that, then we will go our own way." "Alone?" Hoss asked. "Without access to Council trade routes, without access to Council technology, without access to Council knowledge." "If necessary," Menu said. "We have survived worse than loneliness." The room was quiet. The council diplomats looked at each other. They were realizing something. The humans were not bluffing. They genuinely did not need the Council as much as the Council needed them. The humans had survived they had survived wars and plagues and disasters. They had learned to be self-sufficient because they had no choice. The spoke again. What if there was another way? What if we offered Earth full membership in the Council, not as junior members waiting to prove themselves, but as equals? Haas's skin flashed with surprise. That is not the usual protocol. Nothing about this situation is usual, said. The humans are already here. They already have the power to go wherever they want. We can either accept reality and work with them, or we can fight reality and lose everything. Leaned forward. What would full membership mean? Outline the terms. Earth would have a seat on the Council. Earth would have access to all Council trade routes and technology. Earth would have the right to explore any sector of space. In return, Earth would follow Council laws about peaceful interaction with other species. Earth would share its own technology and knowledge. Earth would help defend Council space if needed. And the quarantine, Minyu asked. Lifted immediately, promised. Your solar system would be open to all Council species. You would be open to us. And Minyu looked at each other. They had not expected this. They had expected to fight for every small concession. Instead, the Council was offering everything. Why asked, why give us so much? Haas answered honestly. Because we are afraid, not of your weapons or your ships. We are afraid of being left behind. You have shown us that species can be strong and loyal and honorable. If we reject you, if we try to contain you, we will create an enemy. But if we accept you, if we learn from you, we might all become stronger. The negotiations continued for 3 days. There were details to work out, agreements to sign, systems to establish. But the basic framework was set. Earth would join the Galactic Council. Humanity would take its place among the stars. On the final day, as the documents were being signed, Doctor approached. He had been serving as a technical advisor during the talks. I want to apologize, he said, for activating your beacon, for causing all of this. Smiled at him. Do not apologize, you did us a favor. We could have waited another 100 years for the Council to decide we were ready. Instead, we are here now. We are free now. Thank you for making a mistake. Laughed. It was a strange sound, high and musical. I am glad my mistake had a good ending, and I am happy to be working with humans. You are terrifying but also fascinating. We will try not to be too terrifying, promised. The human fleet prepared to return home. They would leave a small diplomatic ship behind to work out the details, but the majority of the ships would go back to Earth with news that would change everything. They were not alone. They never had been. Admiral Minyu stood on the bridge of the Indomitable one last time before the jump home. He looked at the ancient beacon structure that had started everything. It was dark now, finally silent after 200 years. Do you think the colonists are proud of us? Captain asked. Minyu nodded. I think they are. We came when they called. We answered the distress signal, even if it was 2 centuries late. And now we go home and tell everyone that humanity has officially joined the galaxy, and the galaxy will have to adjust to having us neighbors. The fleet jumped. Space bent around them as they traveled faster than light. Behind them, the Council began preparing for a new era, an era where we're not feared but respected, an era where strength and loyalty were valued, an era that humans had forced them to enter. 5 years passed. Earth hosted the first Galactic Council summit ever held on a. Aliens arrived wearing environmental suits and protective gear. They were amazed and terrified by everything. A light rain felt like a hurricane to beings from gentle worlds. A cool breeze felt like a deadly storm. But they came anyway, because the Council had learned something important. They were not the enemy. They were allies, strong allies who could help protect everyone. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and having friends from a dangerous world was not a bad thing. Doctor gave a speech at the summit. He wore an exoskeleton to help him move in Earth's heavy gravity. 5 years ago, I made a mistake that changed the galaxy. Today, I stand here to say it was the best mistake I ever made. We have learned so much from humans, and they have learned from us. Together, we are stronger than we ever were apart. The summit was a success. New partnerships were formed. New friendships began. And in Seoul Command Center, Fleet Admiral Minyu watched it all with satisfaction. Humanity had survived it. Humanity had built ships that could travel the stars. And now, humanity had found its place among the peoples of the galaxy. Not through conquest, not through force, but by being exactly what they had always been. Stubborn survivors who never gave up, loyal friends who never abandoned anyone, and explorers who always answered the call when someone needed help.